So you have repeatedly said that you will repeal the 2007
we'll try,
sales tax.
sure.
How do you plan to cover the lost revenue?
Well, first of all, as you know, revenue projections haven't exactly come in to target. A lot of the tax increases that have passed over the past 3 years, in fact, have underachieved significantly. And so the fact of it is, when you engage in real analysis, dynamic analysis, you also bring shoppers back, people that are now going out of state. Instead, come to Maryland, for example, Maryland moms running across state lines to buy back to school clothes. They tend more to stay in Maryland. We have spent a lot of time in Border Maryland, retail shops, the furniture shop, everywhere you go. And you see story after story, anecdote after anecdote of Marylanders running across state lines. So to the extent you can bring people back, obviously they're going to shop in Maryland, they're going to pay sales tax in Maryland. So the loss isn't as significant as you might think under a static analysis first. Secondly, we can't afford not to do this. You know, this is a very important element in our business environment, our business reputation. We believe we can work with certainly the Senate at the beginning, Mike Miller, and hopefully either Mike Bishop or the new speaker, whoever the new speaker is. And we'll be happy to do so. So we look forward to engaging in these conversations. And look, there's certainly there's some flexibility here. There was flexibility when we had our slots bill, as you know. If they want to phase it in, we would look at that. We would certainly negotiate, but the fact of it is, it really needs to go down. We're now uncompetitive with regard to Virginia, and we're certainly more uncompetitive with regard to Delaware.
In not years past, but in weeks and months past, the Mikes in the General Assembly, the leadership down there, said that they would not entertain a bill to repeal the tax. How would you get it through?
Well, Mike Bush said he wouldn't entertain slots, and that was no longer governor, and they passed slots. So, and I don't know who the speaker is going to be, in fact, because Mike Bush is a very difficult race. So, if he is the speaker, we'll certainly negotiate with him. If he's no longer the speaker, we'll negotiate with the new speaker.
The legislative services folks are saying that there will be billions of deficits for years to come. How do you address the long term?
Well, this is sort of the macro issue. You know, this is the restructuring. This is I saw a study the other day looking at some of the wasteful spending in higher ed. In fact, in the state of Maryland, just came out. This is Medicaid reform. This is Medicaid waivers. This is restructuring. It's sort of what we did the first time. It's going to the unions, obviously, the public sector unions, and negotiating in good faith. We have a pretty good relationship with a number of those unions. They understood what happened the first time. We had a very similar situation going down to announce that the first time. We sat down and we said, look, this first year, we're going to do some tightening. We're going to look at I talked to Greg Kerwin about savings in the university system that year. He found $40 million. And we said, look, when the economy begins to improve and some of these changes come about, we'll look at giving you cost of living adjustments and steps and increments and things like that. So you have to work with people. You have to work with the most impacted entities. When you look at what drives state budgets, it's pensions, Medicaid, and personnel. And clearly, personnel being very relevant. A lot of state employees today feel rather abused, feel we're not appreciated. So if you just go and do what we did the first time, which is to be really honest with them and say, look, there'll be no furloughs, but you have to work with us on certain things in the budget, and we're trying to get our budget situation under control. We think it can be done. We did it the first time. We believe we can do it the second time.
So you shift the cost of pensions to the counties? Is that on the table?
I mean, you know what? I know Mike Miller's been advocating that for many years. You have to be fair. You have to be fair. You have to engage in dialogue on that. If any change occurs there, it has to be incremental and it has to be in partnership with counties. It just can't be in one fell swoop. It can't be large. It's just simply unfair. All you're doing is imposing a major tax increase on the locals, which will be passed on, obviously, to the citizens. Mike Miller has felt very strongly about this issue for many years. He's made his feelings known. Again, it has to be done in partnership.
Are you counting on slots revenues?
Oh, we sure. I mean, you're going to have 2 venues up. In fact, we were trying to score this yesterday. We're trying to figure out what the revenue from Cecil County and Ocean Downs will be. One of our major, and look, we all know that our surrounding states have surpassed us. Pennsylvania, Delaware, clearly, West Virginia. But the fact of it is, you are going to have additional revenue from slots. To the extent those venues can increase from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, you're going to have more revenue from slots. Right now, we have a pretty large venue that looks like it's going to be pretty successful in Cecil County, and we have a relatively small venue that I predict is going to be fairly successful as well at Ocean Downs. But the 2 major revenue drivers here in Baltimore City and in Rowan County. We don't have a bona fide bidder in Baltimore City, and obviously you have in Rowan County going to referendum and potentially litigation. So we're going to spend a lot of time trying to, again, work in partnership. Mike Miller was a great partner the first time concerning slots. You really need to get those two major dollar venues up. If you really want to save horse racing, if you want to get the breeders back, if you really want to save standardbred racing in Maryland, which is just about gone. In that respect, Rosecroft is now closed. That's a tragedy. There's a potential of 2,000 jobs at Rosecroft. It is closed. Simulcasting there, standardbreds there, and potentially cards, which passed one chamber there last time, would be something to look at.
There was a letter to the editor of the Sun paper today from a reverend who saw reports about your tax returns. And the tone of the letter suggests that you and your opponent are rather stingy when it comes to charitable donations.
Oh, we haven't put out my charitable donations.
Oh, they were out?
They were in, it was in
We
there.
did release. We did
Yeah.
release.
Oh, yeah.
And also the percentage was on your returns.
It wasn't stingy either, but we did release it.
As far as the time and energy we put into nonprofits, chairing events, writing checks, I don't know, 50, 80, whatever it is, the number of organizations we supported.
More than that.
And you know what? The whole thing about that is, and I've read some of Governor Malloy's comments. When we first started the law firm, the comments of the Democratic Party was, we'll never be successful, we'll never get clients, we'll never make it. So we were successful, obviously. It's good to be successful in the private sector. I think this is a good story. People expect a governor to have some success in another aspect of life, and we were very successful and quite proud of it.
Some are raising concern since you haven't revealed a client list from Walmart Carlisle.
Oh no, there's dozens of clients out there.
Well, if you release a client list, they could match it to who may be bringing business to the state, whether or not there be a conflict of interest.
At some point, Dave, you just have to, this is just ludicrous. Martin O'Malley was a criminal defense attorney. Good for him. That's his profession. He defended people accused of crimes. It's a legitimate profession. Good for him. But we haven't made a big deal of him defending folks accused of violating the law. At some point, and that's why this stuff hasn't worked this cycle, by the way. 10% unemployment. We're talking about raising sales tax base. Talking about loss of business reputation, talking about charter schools. People are in a serious mood. They want serious dialogue about serious issues. This stuff about what he did or who struck John, the negative ads, the oil spill, people just didn't buy it, and that's why he fell behind the polls, and that's why he's going to lose in November 2nd.
So
Anybody else? Last
I've
question?
been looking around.
It's okay. No.
No, that's fine.
Let's hear the well.
No. I actually wanted to ask a bunch of questions and you answered them already.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, when those ads started on the radio, people just said, "What's this? This is a serious time. People expect serious dialogue about serious issues."
I guess I do.
And this parenthetical stuff is just not very relevant to people when you're talking about these three guys over here losing their jobs.
I guess I do have a question about these 43 taxes that you're talking about in the bill that you mentioned. I mean, it is
House Bill 448.
right. I mean, it is a bill that failed in the General Assembly.
Well, they took elements of it, obviously, and we don't know what elements they're going to take next. Do we think, and Pat and JB and Rick can certainly answer this as well. They were there. They've now been. In fact, Joe Bowler told me at the end of last session they started going around thinking which one of these can you live with. So it may not be all
was that
of them.
verbal, or was there emails that went around?
You can talk to him. Call him actually because he mentioned this at our last roundtable. Pat, you were there.
They talked to all of us about it. They're serious about that sales tax. They actually tried to consider pushing it in the last session at the last minute, and they just withdrew it. So it's very serious.
We're just as I said, educating the public as to what could be what is more likely to be coming down the road. Is it all 43? Probably not. Is it a subset? Probably so.
And are you going to be going around to 43 different places just out of curiosity?
We might. Well,
We're down to Route 43.
I mean, you start looking at this list, and again, when people think about this, they tend to think, 5 to 6. No. This is 0 to 6. And when you talk about that dimension, you're putting these jobs at risk. And as Gary said, you're also looking at a public safety concern as far as people postponing repairs that need to get done on their automobiles, which is not the way we want to go.
Thank you.